And we are live. Let's see if I can get us live on Instagram as well. There we go. Welcome to Break into Law School with Sydney Montgomery. I am super excited to have you here. I'm super excited to answer your questions today. Let's just dig into this. So today we're talking about how many law schools you should apply to and how many law schools you should apply to, which law schools you should apply to, all of kind of the above. So before I begin, for those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the owner and founder of S. Montgomery Admissions Consulting, where I provide personalized college counseling and law school admissions consulting. As a first generation attorney from Princeton and Harvard Law School, I am really excited to have dedicated my life to helping students break down generational barriers and to step confidently into their future. Today, I am sporting a Harvard Law School t-shirt. It's a t-shirt kind of day. It's been a long week. I don't know how many of you guys have felt like, woo, oh my God, I am so happy that it's Friday. And for me, it's been the culmination of a fantastic week. So I want to hear from you. If you're here, if you can let me know if you can hear me all right, if you can see me all right. We are really excited to get going today. So let me just check in and make sure that you guys can hear and see me all right. And hello to YouTube, hello to Instagram, hello to Facebook. We are everywhere today, and I'm really excited about it. All right, so like I said, we're going to dive right in. How many law schools should you be applying to, and which law schools should you be applying to? Let's start with how many, because I think that's kind of an easier question in a lot of respects. So there are actual statistics that show that when you apply to, awesome, someone said they can hear me and see me just fine. I love that. Thank you. Let me see who that is. Oh, hello, Lakeisha. It's so great to see you. Okay, so how many law schools should you apply to? Statistics say that when you apply to at least 10 law schools, your rate of getting into schools increases by a lot, actually. More than 95% of applicants in the 2016 to 2017 application cycle who applied to at least 10 law schools, more than 95% of them gained admittance to at least one law school, compared to about 56% of applicants who only applied to one or two law schools. So let me break that down for you. If you apply to at least 10 law schools, at least, of course, they want to be balanced. If your scores and your median GPA are not really where it should be and you only apply to the top 10 law schools, probably you'll have different statistics. But statistically, if you have a balanced list, and we're going to talk about what a balanced list means, but if you have a balanced list and it has schools that you know that you can get into pretty easily, we call this in college admissions likely schools, you know that you can get in pretty easily, and you're probably going to get some scholarship money from those schools, because you want some schools on your list that you're going to get into easily and that you're going to have scholarship money. Now, if you have some of those schools, if you have some target schools, which would be schools that you have a 50-50 chance of getting in, maybe with scholarship money, maybe not, and then some reach schools. If you have a balanced list of at least 10 of those schools, you have over a 90% chance of getting into at least one school. Right? And, for some people, the goal is really to become a lawyer. It's to secure that JD, right? And so when you only apply to one or two or three schools, you drop your odds of getting into at least one school by almost half. Now you're looking at maybe a 50-50 chance of getting into any law school whatsoever. In 2017, the shutout rate for Black applicants was 49%. That means almost 1 in 2 Black applicants in 2016-2017 application cycle did not get into a single school that they applied to. That's crazy, y'all. 1 in 2. Like I got in, but you didn't get in. That's crazy. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to fix that. And one of the easiest ways is just making sure that you're applying to enough schools. And I know you're like, but Sydney, it's so expensive. I get it. There's the school fee, And then there's the CAS fee, the Credential Assembly Service through the Law School Admission Committee, Law School Admission Council. So that CAS fee is about $45 per school. And that's for them to send your transcripts and to send your letters of recommendation to each school. So if you know you want to apply to at least 10 schools because you're trying to increase your chances of getting a yes, of getting an acceptance, but you're on a budget, what do? There's a couple things. If you haven't already applied for an LSAC fee waiver, I would do that as soon as possible in your law school journey. Why? Because you actually want to know, okay, that Credential Assembly Service fee, that fee is going to be taken care of for the schools. When you have an LSAC fee waiver, they give you pretty sure it's 2 LSAT tests free of charge, and they will waive that Credential Assembly Service fee for the schools that you're applying to. So let me know if that makes sense to you guys, right? So if you get that LSAC fee waiver, you're actually really setting yourself up to be in a good position when it comes time to apply. The other thing is that when you, even if you don't get the Credential Assembly Service fee waived, right, you have the school fee. So let's say LSAC denies your fee waiver, and you should always definitely appeal. But let's say you appeal and they still deny your fee waiver. What do you do then? Well, you can actually email each of the schools and ask to have your fee waived. You can just let them know, hey, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm a graduate of such and such university, or I'm a current senior, or I'm a current junior. I'm a working mom. I would love to be able to apply to your law school. However, cost is really prohibitive. And so I am hoping and I'm emailing to see if there are any assistance that can be given by your office so that I could apply. I would really love the opportunity to apply to your school. However, finances are limiting my ability to apply to the breadth of schools that I would love to apply to. I'm emailing to see if there's any assistance that can be done from your office. There are so many different ways to write this email. And when you write that email, you'll be surprised by how many schools are just gonna yes, absolutely, I will give you that fee waiver. Let me grab my water, guys. I'm so sorry. But let me know as I'm grabbing my water if that makes sense to you. And we're just having a little bit of technical difficulties today, but that's fine because it's Friday. It is totally Friday. Okay. So that should be good. All right. So we've discussed that you want to be applying to at least 10 schools. Some safety schools or some likely schools, some target schools, and some reach schools. So which schools do you apply to? How do you figure out how to make that list? One of the things that is really determinative in terms of how you make that list is you want to look at your numbers. You want to see where you're falling academically, both with your GPA and with your LSAT score. All right. Sorry, we're not going to be distracted by that anymore. So if you are saying, well, I'm at the beginning of my journey, I don't know what my LSAT score is going to be yet, the first thing that I would tell you to do is to take a diagnostic exam. And I know that the diagnostic exam causes a lot of people anxiety because you feel like you're afraid of the test, you don't like time standardized testing, you are afraid you're going to get a bad score, you're afraid it's going to be overwhelming, you're afraid it's going to discourage you. However, I would say that that is all about mindset. So the test is just information, really. The test is just it's just showing you where your baseline is. And so your diagnostic test shouldn't really be something that you're afraid of. You can't make good decisions about which schools to apply to, what study prep to use, whether you should get a tutor, how you should be attacking your timing in terms of working on your personal statement and your LSAT exam. You can't attack any of that if you don't know what your diagnostic score is. So that's the first thing that you need to do. I usually tell students that it's reasonable to expect your score to go up 10 to 15 points. Does it mean it's always going to go up 15? No. Does it mean that 15 is a cap? No. You can absolutely go up more than 15 points. but that's just kind of an average ballpark, right? You can kind of averagely expect that you will probably go up about 10 points. I went up 14 points on my LSAT, and I studied at least 3 hours a day for 3 months using Testmasters. But there's so many fantastic programs out there that I feel like weren't as prevalent and as robust as they were then. So, I love LSAT Demon. I was just on LSAT Demon's podcast. We taped the podcast yesterday, their podcast, Thinking LSAT. And I actually want to just take a moment to plug Thinking LSAT and LSAT Demon real quick, because what I loved yesterday, we taped that podcast. The podcast airs on Monday. So if you're not subscribed to Thinking LSAT, you should definitely do so. And we really got into the weeds with a lot of things, but I love that with their premium or live package, their subscription plan with LSAT Demon, they have created these study groups. And so yesterday afternoon, I actually got to sit with a bunch of members from the Black LSAT study group. They have a Black LSAT study group. They have a study group for older people. They have a study group for people on different time zones. These are all different types of study groups that are offered within their live and premium LSAT Demon packages. And so I thought that was fantastic. I got to meet with a bunch of really awesome people. They got to ask me questions. Shout out to them. Shout out to Shara, if she's listening. She just joined the group. Fantastic. Courtney and Semi, and there were so many really fantastic people there. So I just want to plug that for you, because I thought it was a really affirming space, and there aren't a lot of spaces in this process that are affirming. So that's definitely one of them that I would definitely recommend. But yes, so don't be scared of your diagnostic test, because you don't know what you have until you take the diagnostic, exactly, Lakeisha. So take that diagnostic test and maybe bump yourself up 10 points and say, okay, that's reasonable. If I do great, sure. If I don't do great, we're still kind of okay. And look at the schools that have medians around that area. Now, I've always told you guys that a median is just that. A median is a median. It is not a requirement. It is not a cutoff. It is not, it's just not like the number that you have to get to go into that school. A median means that 50% of people have scored that or higher, but also that 50% of people who are at that school have scored that or lower. And that's the part that I think we always forget. When we see the median, we're like, well, my score is not that. Okay, and 50% of people have a score lower than that, and they're at that school. So I don't want you to say no to yourself when the school is not even really saying no to you. It's just a median. It's just the number in the middle. But you can start to look at 10 points higher than your diagnostic as a good ballpark for where your scores might start to align with the median. And then look at your GPA. Of course, though, be looking at your GPA in context. Are you a STEM major? Did you come from a particular difficult school or an elite institution? Did you have a qualifying circumstance that puts your GPA in context? Did you have a medical issue, or was there family circumstances or financial circumstances that caused the dip in your GPA that can be overcome with an addendum? If you haven't already downloaded my essential guide to applying to law school, it's totally free. You can find it on my website. I'll make sure to put the link here. That walks you through how to do an addenda for academic and LSAT and even character and fitness. So I would definitely dig into those materials. But when you're looking at which schools to apply to, I would start with, maybe give yourself plus or minus 0.3 on your GPA and bump your diagnostic up 10 points and be looking at the schools that are in that range. And then you also really want to be looking at the historical scholarship data. So you take those bumped numbers and you can go to LSAT Demon Scholarship Estimator. There's also the pre-law platform, which will give historical scholarship amounts. It'll also tell you things like bar passage rate, employment data, where in the country students work, because the thing is, when you're trying to figure out which schools to apply to, you're either going to be applying to national schools or you're going to be applying to regional schools. And regional schools are really anything under the T30. So the top 30. So if you're applying to regional schools, you want to be looking at where geographically you want to practice law. At that point, you're not just going straight based off of rankings. If you don't want to practice law in Iowa, then it doesn't make sense to apply to the University of Iowa. That seems basic, but sometimes people will go to schools because they're ranked such and such, but then I'm like, oh, do you want to practice in the DC area? No, not really. I want to move back home to Georgia. Okay, well, then you should really be prioritizing the Georgia schools. And students will be like, but they're ranked lower or whatever it is. And I'm just using Georgia as an example. But if you know you want to practice in a particular state or a particular area and you're mostly applying to regional schools, then you need to really focus on schools that are going to have job offers and relationships within certain states, within a geographical bounds, because that's who's going to come. Those are the employers that are going to come to job fairs. Those are the employers that are going to really be available to you as a resource for externships and internships, both during the school year and during the summer. So you really want to set yourself up with where do I want to practice? And if you want to practice in Georgia, but your scores are such that you're looking at national law schools, that's okay too, right? If you go to a top 10 or a top 14 school, you can go basically anywhere in the country. But I want you really thinking about where geographically you want to practice, because that is going to dictate a lot of your law school choice. Now, if you're saying, I don't really know where I want to practice, I'm open. I could go anywhere. I could go to Nebraska. I could go to Minnesota. I could go to Oklahoma. I could go to Florida. I just know that I want to practice this specific type of law. Then you can start to get a feel for the types of clinics and journals and centers that the school has. If you're really interested in something niche, I always use like either animal law or food law as my examples. Not every school has robust offerings or clinics on animal law and food law. So you really want to take that into consideration, because especially if you're going to a regional law school, you can gain a lot of experience during law school, some practical experience representing clients or doing moot arguments or writing policy briefs that will help you get a job and increase your ability to network after law school. So let me know, does that make sense to you guys? Do you have questions? I know this was definitely a hot topic. Do you have any questions on kind of where you should be thinking about the first steps? You have a blank slate. You don't really know how to go about choosing law schools. That first step that you're going to want to do is take a diagnostic, see where your numbers are. So the second step is you want to see what kind of scholarship money schools in that area give. And really, honestly, maybe second or third step is figuring out where you want to practice geographically. So take a diagnostic test and then figure out where you want to practice geographically, and let those two numbers guide you on your choice of what schools you want to target. And then, of course, looking at the programs, the clinics, and the journals, and the centers that they have, so that you can make sure that you're going to come out of law school with the experience that you need. Let me know if that makes sense to you guys. I know we're doing something new. We're doing Fridays at noon. We've rebranded as Break Into Law School, because I really want to help you guys break down those generational barriers and break cycles of debt and poverty, and break into your future and break into your legal career and into generational wealth and legacy. So I know that as we get more comfortable with Fridays at noon, it will just be a thing, but put in your calendar. I'm going to be here. Even though next Friday is Good Friday, I will still be here with you guys answering your questions. And maybe we even touch on religious life at law school, because that's something that I know people don't really think about, but it can be really affirming to your soul and really affirming to your sense of self when you are going through it at law school, as you will be, and you are feeling down, or you're feeling maybe some depression or some overwhelm or some anxiety. Those mental health spaces on campus and the spirituality spaces and groups on campus can be a really important thing. I know when I was at law school, we actually started Black student ministries at Harvard because they didn't have a Black church option. And that ended up being a really large part of my law school career and my law school time. So let me just check in with you guys, see where you are. I'm not going to be with you guys too long, but I want to make sure that I've answered your questions. And of course, if you're watching the replay, hello, replay viewers. I'm so excited to see you as well. Like I said, we'll be here every Friday at noon. We won't take up too much of your time. I'll just jump on here, answer your questions, give you some tips on different things that I think would help you on your journey. And then, as always, I will pray us out. So you can feel free to catch it in your lunch break or feel free to catch it as you're going between meetings. It's kind of nice being with you guys in the middle of the day, to be honest. I'm always with you guys at night, and sometimes it can get kind of tired like at night, and so I'm fresh and ready to go. Karen asks, what would you suggest for someone who is a non-traditional student? So generally, and Temmie has a question about letters of continued interest. Hello, Temmie. Okay, so Karen, the same advice, whether you're a non-traditional student, whether you've been out of school for 2 years or 15 years, I would really suggest the same exact gameplay. Now, the other wrinkle, though, if you're a non-traditional student, and I have a video on this, so make sure you check it out, is deciding if you want to do a part-time program or full-time program. And they both come with their own pros and cons. But generally, you want to, hi, Temmie. Generally, what you want to do is you want to first start with that diagnostic score. You want to take a diagnostic test and figure out where you are academically. Now, your GPA from your undergrad GPA, depending, like maybe if you went to college 15 years ago, that might not be such an accurate representation of who you are as a person right now. And that's something that can definitely be explained in an addenda if necessary. But you still want to start with where your baseline score is, add 10 points, and start looking around there and see what schools have medians there if you're just starting your journey. I really do believe that most really good law school assessment test programs, LSAT test prep programs, will help you get a score bump of, somewhere around 10 points. So once you have that, then I would start thinking, where do you want to practice geographically? If you're an older non-traditional student, you might already have a house and kids who might be established in a certain area. You might not want to move. Your husband might not want you to move, or your kids might not want you to move. So definitely be looking at the geographic area. You'll have some other considerations. You might want to look at how schools' financial aid looks at assets if you already have them, or if you're looking at loan repayment assistance programs, how they consider assets, 401k, that sort of thing when they're determining how much aid and scholarship money to give you for law school. And then you want to be looking at the programs that you're interested in. What is driving you to law school at this point in your career? What do you want to do with your legal degree that you can't do without your legal degree? And how can the clinics and externships really help you at that school? So kind of still that same three-pronged approach, but with some additional layers and additional responsibilities and maybe factors to consider overlaid there. Okay, so Temmie says, I have a question about the letter of continued interest. I know to write it in a Word document, but how do I address it? Should I put my LSAC number, law school name, address? So no, you don't really need to go that deep. Sometimes letters of continued interest can actually be in the body of an email. It depends on how long it is. And sometimes they can be a separate Word document. That's really just a stylistic preference. If it's a short letter, you can usually just put it in the body of the email. You want to address it to admissions and just say, dear, whoever, usually the person that gave you the waitlist offer, or if you have, let's say you had an interviewer and they work in admissions, or they're an admissions officer, director, or dean, and you've had some connection and some contact. That's kind of one of the reasons why I really stress to you in the beginning of the process that you want to be forming those relationships, so that when you get to the time here where maybe you're waitlisted and you're writing a letter of continued interest, you have a person that you can write it to. But if not, you can just say, dear, Sunnyside University admissions office, School of Law admissions office, or to whom it may concern. You want to send it. Some schools, when they waitlist you, they will give you a specific email. I know NYU had a specific email where they want their waitlist communication to go, because that's how they stay organized. So you want to read your waitlist letter carefully, but usually you're responding to the waitlist email in an email, or you can say, please find attached my letter of continued interest. And then you would just say, dear so-and-so. You don't need an address. Honestly, at that point, you don't really need your LSAC number, because you're replying to a waitlist email, so they have it. And you're starting to build that connection, and you're starting to build that relationship. So it's not as cold and formal as like something else. You're really talking to the person. You're expressing your interest. You're showing the personal reasons why you want to go to that school, the interactions that you've had, any updates that you've had, and that you are really committed to staying on that wait list and really committed to that school. You don't have to have it as your first choice school, but for every school that waitlists you, you should do a letter of continued interest if it's a school that you're still interested in applying to. So let me know, Temmie, did that answer your question? And Karen, awesome. I'm glad that answered your question. I work with a lot of non-traditional students. I've worked with students as old as 45 or 50. Not to say that that's the upper limit. There's really no age that's too old to go to law school. I really appreciate working with older students because I think you bring a wealth of knowledge, of expertise, of just life experience to the table. It's really fun to write those essays. So I'm really glad to have you here. Awesome, Temmie. I'm so glad that answered your question. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I will pray us out. I'll give you about another minute or two to see if there's anyone else that has questions. I apologize. I was on Instagram. I don't know. My phone does not like streaming to Instagram, so I have to figure that out. There's always a tech something. But awesome. Okay, I'll see. And if you have a question later, if you're watching the replay, hello, replay viewers, I will definitely answer that question either in the comments or next week. We're going to be here every week, guys. So it's cool. Pop in, say hi, ask your question, get it answered. That's what I'm here for. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you and we say thank you. Thank you for Friday. Thank you for allowing us to be here, to take a break in our day, to get questions answered, to get clarity, to get guidance. Thank you for this space. Thank you for allowing us to be barrier breakers. Thank you for always providing for us, always ensuring that we have what we need, that we don't have excess, that we don't have an insufficiency of anything, that you've always provided, just like you provided manna in the wilderness, you have provided for us here. So I say thank you for that. I thank you not just for the blessings that you're doing in our own life, but I thank you for the generational blessings that you are sowing the seeds for right now that will bloom later for our children, for our grandchildren, that we are creating a legacy here. So thank you for always guiding us, and thank you for opening doors even in the future, even for those we don't even know. Thank you for being a miracle worker in our life and for getting us to this place where we can have community, for removing us from isolation, for removing us from doubt and anxiety and insecurity, and for giving us a new word, a new day, a new community, a new family that we have, that we can go on this journey, for renewing our strength. Sometimes you renew our strength, and sometimes you bring others into our fold so that we can lift each other up and grow. So thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for that. I so appreciate it. Dear God, I just want to ask on this Friday, on this beautiful day, it's a beautiful day in Maryland, that you would go with them on their law school journey. Some people are just starting their journey. And so I ask that you would give them the confidence to take these next steps, to take a diagnostic exam, to get started on the brainstorming, to reach out and seek guidance where necessary. I also ask that you would be with those on the very end of the journey, those who are weighing offers of scholarship money, who are negotiating scholarships, who are navigating wait lists. I ask that you would be with them and help them discern where your calling is, discern where their home is, discern where they should go, where you would have them go to thrive and become the lawyer that you have called them to be. I know that you have put this in their hearts, that you have given them the calling, and that you will see them through to fruition. So I just ask that you would be with them in their choices, that you would settle their mind, and that you would make decisions clear to them, dear Heavenly Father. I ask as we go into Holy Week next week with Palm Sunday that you would just be with us. I thank you for sending your son for his sacrifice, for dying for our sins, and for Resurrection Sunday, that is next Sunday, Easter Sunday. I thank you that we are going into a new beginning, that this is the beginning of a new chapter in our life, a new chapter in our faith, and a new chapter in our communities. I ask all of this in your precious son's name. Amen. So guys, thank you so much for being with me. I see there was a last minute question from Lakeisha. While I was praying, girl, how do you suggest we gain a rapport with the admissions committee? I feel like all the answers are on the website, so I don't even know what to ask. So first, I would say go to an info session. There is so much more than what is on their website. So go to an information session and then really be thinking about how you can apply the words that they're saying to your own circumstances. They also have digital LSAC forums. Those are great ways to meet admissions. And honestly, remember that they're humans too, and they're people. Ask them what made them come to this school, how their day is going, what really separates their school from other schools. Keisha said she sent it before the prayer. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. But yeah, I want you to really think about the relationships that you're building with admissions as relational and not transactional. Because I will tell you that some of the relationships that you're building will last longer than the application process. The legal world is very small. And so it's just good to know people, but to know, even about them and their choices and what brought them to certain schools and how they view themselves as different, or what really sets the school apart, what they're looking for in applicants, whether, how they practice collaboration at their school, what are the values that they would like their applicants to have, or the values that they try to instill in their students. There are so many questions that aren't on the website. So those are just a couple, but going to information sessions and going to LSAC forums are definitely one of the ways that you can get some FaceTime with students, and then with admissions officers, and then following up with them and keeping the lines of communication open can really go a long way, especially if you find yourself, as we have this year with so many students on the wait list, it can really help to have those connections. All right, guys. It is 12:35 over here. I am so happy that you guys are with me today. I'm so happy that we're doing this in the afternoon. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this. If you have more questions, if you're new to the group, if you're on the Facebook group, Barrier Breakers, please post and introduce yourself. We would love to get to know you. We would love to support you and know where you're from and what kind of law you're interested in studying. So definitely post. If you haven't, if you're old and you've been in this group for a long time, but you have just never posted a welcome message, this is my personal invitation to you to post a welcome message so that we can get to know you, we can celebrate you. I have students all over the country. I have students in law school all over the country. Hello, Azelle. It's so great to see you. I'm really excited that you're here. So you definitely post a welcome message. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what kind of law you're interested in. I want to be able to connect you to my network of students across the country, my network of students in law school, my network of students who are at law firms. But I can only do that if you post and introduce yourself to me. So I don't care if I get 300 new posts introducing yourself. That would make me overjoyed with happiness. So definitely introduce yourself to me so that I can know who you are. I can say hello and we can get to know you guys. All right. But I will be right back here next week at noon Eastern time. So go ahead and put it in your calendar and make a little recurring event, because this is where we'll be. This is where the party's at, guys. And if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure that you do so at S Montgomery Consulting. I would love to connect with you there as well. All right. I love you all, and I will see you very soon. Bye, guys.